Hi everyone, welcome to Skills Up with Satish YouTube channel. This is part 3 question and answer video for Microsoft Certificate Exam Preparation, which is for SC-300 Microsoft Identity and Access Administrator. In this video, we have 25 questions and answers, which is fully updated and up to the current examination. Question number 1. Azure AD group-based licensing makes large-scale management easier. Typically, how soon are license modification effective after group membership change are made? There are three options in this question. Within the time frame of local domain controllers being refreshed, within 24 hours of membership change, within minutes of membership change. Answer is within minutes of a membership change. So the explanation for this answer is license modification that result from group membership changes are typically effective within minutes of membership change. Question number 2. You have a new Microsoft 365 tenant that uses a domain name of contesto.onmicrosoft.com. You register the name contesto.com with a domain register. You need to use contesto.com as a default domain name for the new Microsoft 365 users. Which four actions should you perform in sequence? Create a new text record in DNS, successfully verify the domain, set the domain to primary, add a custom domain name of Contesto. Next option is add a custom domain name of contesto.com, create a new text record in DNS, successfully verify the domain name, set the domain name to primary. The correct answer is add a custom domain name of contesto.com, create a new text record in DNS, successfully verify the domain name, set the domain to primary. Explanation: to use contesto.com as a default domain, you must first add that domain, then prove the ownership, and only after that you can set it as a primary. That's the correct order. Question number 3. Which roles can only be assigned using privileged identity management? There are three options we have: permanently active roles, transition roles, eligible roles. The correct answer is eligible roles. Explanation: in privileged identity management, that is called PIM, eligible roles can only be assigned to through PIM. They allow just-in-time activation instead of permanent admin access. Azure AD doesn't support creating eligible assignments outside of PIM. Permanent roles can be assigned normally. Eligible roles can only be assigned via PIM. Question number 4. Azure AD B2B can be configured to federate with identity providers that use either of two protocols. One protocol is security assertion markup language. What is the other protocol? There are three options we have: layer 2 tunneling protocol, resource location protocol, WS federation. The correct answer is WS federation, that's called WS Fed. Azure AD B2B collaboration supports federation with external identity providers using two protocols, that is called SAML 2.0 and WS Federation WS Fed. So these are the standard identity federation protocols. Question number 5. The increase of many types of device and bring your own device concept require IT professionals to accommodate two rather different goals. One goal is to allow users to be productive wherever and anytime. What is the other goal? There are three options we have: protect the organization assets, provide anti-malware apps for various devices, establish baseline security guidelines for users. The correct answer is protect the organization assets. And here we have the explanation why we choose this option. With BYOD, bring your own device, and many device types, IT must balance two goals. The first one, enable user productivity anywhere and from anytime. Protect the organization data and resources. This is the core purpose of identity device management and conditional access. Question number 6. You have an Active Directory for us that syncs to an Azure Active Directory that is called Entra ID now. You discover that where a user account is disabled in Active Directory, the disabled user can still authenticate to Azure AD for up to 30 minutes. You need to ensure that when a user account is disabled in Active Directory, the user account is immediately prevented from authenticating to Entra ID that is called Azure AD. The solution, you configure pass-through authentication. Does this meet the goal? Yes or no? Its answer is yes. Explanation: user is disabled in on-prem Active Directory. Azure AD still shows sign in for up to 30 minutes. Case Azure AD connect sync delay. Why pass-through authentication fixes this? With pass-through authentication, Azure AD doesn't validate password itself. Every sign-in is validated directly against on-prem Active Directory in real time. So, when the account is disabled in on-prem, authentication fails immediately, no waiting for Azure AD Connect Sync delay. Question number 7. You have an Microsoft 365 tenant. The Azure Active Directory that is called Entra ID now. Tenant syncs to an on-prem Active Directory domain. Users connect to the internet by using a hardware firewall at your company. The users authenticate to the firewall by using their Active Directory credential. You plan to manage access to external application by using Azure AD. You need to use the firewall logs to create a list of unmanaged external application and the users who access them. What should you use to gather the information? So here we have four options. Option 1, application insights in Azure Monitor. Option 2, access reviews in Azure AD. Option 3, cloud app discovery in Microsoft Cloud App Security. Option 4, enterprise application in Azure AD. The correct answer is cloud app discovery in Microsoft Cloud App Security. Here we have the explanation. So what cloud app discovery does? So actually it can ingest a firewall, proxy and network logs, analyze the traffic and detect SaaS apps in use, users accessing them, risk level of each app. This is commonly called shadow IT discovery. Question number 8. Which authentication method requires the least effort regarding deployment, maintenance and infrastructure? So we have three authentication method: password hash synchronization PHS, pass-through authentication PTA, federated authentication. The correct answer is password hash synchronization PHS. Here we have the explanation why we chose this option. Among Azure AD authentication methods, password hash synchronization, easier to deploy, minimal infrastructure, no additional servers required, low maintenance. Azure AD Connect syncs password hashes to Azure AD and that's it. If we go through pass-through authentication PTA, requires authentication agents on-prem. Agents must be installed, monitored, and kept running. More maintenance than PHS. And we have the next option, federated authentication, that's called ADFS or any third-party federation tool that we use. It requires ADFS servers, web application proxy, load balancer, certificates, highest complexity and maintenance. That's why we choose option password hash synchronization, which is easier to deploy and manage and minimal the infrastructure. Question number 9. You have an Active Directory for us that syncs to an Azure Active Directory that is called Entra ID now. You discover that when a user account is disabled in Active Directory, the disabled user still can authenticate to Azure AD for up to 30 minutes. You need to ensure that when a user account is disabled in Active Directory, that's on-prem Active Directory, the user account is immediately prevented from authenticating to Azure AD. Here they have provided the solution. You configure Azure AD password protection. So we need to identify whether this meet the goal or not. So we have two options, yes or no. The correct answer is no, because what Azure AD password protection do? Azure AD password protection is used to block weak passwords, enforce banned password list, protect against password spray attacks. It applies to password creation, password changes. So Azure AD password protection enforces password complexity, not account enablement or authentication timing. Question number 10. Your network contains on-prem Active Directory domain that syncs to an Azure Active Directory that is called Entra ID. Users sign in to the computer that run Windows 10 and are joined to the AD domain. You plan to implement Azure AD seamless sign-on that's called SSO. You need to configure the Windows 10 computers to support Azure AD seamless SSO. What should you do? There are four options we have. So we'll go one by one. Configure sign-in options from settings app. Enable enterprise state roaming. Modify the intranet zone settings. Install the Azure AD Connect authentication agent. The correct answer is modify the intranet zone settings. Explanation. So to configure SSO, we need to do these kind of things. For seamless SSO work, the browser must allow integrated Windows authentication. This requires adding Azure AD URLs to the local internet zone. Typical URLs include, there are two URLs which is given. This is usually done using the group policy. We need to add the URLs to the internet zone settings, which resolve that issue. Question number 11. You have 2500 users who are assigned Microsoft Office 365 Enterprise E3 license. The license are assigned to individual users. From the group blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center, you assign Microsoft 365 Enterprise E3 license to the users. You need to remove the Office 365 Enterprise E3 license from the users by using the least amount of administrative effort. What should you use? There are four options we have. The Identity Governance blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center, the set Azure AD user commandlet, the license blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center, the set Windows product key commandlet. The correct answer is the license blade in the Azure Active Admin Center. Why we choose this answer? Because this is the lowest administrative effect, because we do not need any scripting, no looping through users, only we need to do few clicks. We'll go to the next question. Question number 12. You have an Azure Active Directory tenant named contoso.com. You plan to bulk invite Azure AD business to business, that is called B2B collaboration users. Which two parameters must you include when you create the bulk invite? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. So we have four option, I think five option. Email address, redirection URL, username, shared key, password. The correct answer is email address and redirection URL. Explanation. So when we invite Azure AD B2B collaboration users, we need to use CSV file. So we have two parameters, that is mandatory. Email address, that is identifies the external guest user. Invitation is sent to this address. Next one is the redirection URL. So specifies where the user is sent after accepting the invitation. So we use that our myops.microsoft.com URL when we invite the external users. Question number 13. You configure a new Microsoft 365 tenant to use a default domain name of contoso.com. You need to ensure that you can control access to Microsoft 365 resource by using conditional access policies. What should you do first? Disable the user consent settings, disable security defaults, configure a multi-factor authentication registration policy, configure password protection for Windows Server Active Directory. So we have these four options now. So the correct answer out of these four is disable security defaults. So here we have the explanation. So security defaults are enabled by default in new Microsoft 365 tenants. When security defaults are enabled, we cannot create or use conditional access policies. So in order to use conditional access policy, we should first disable the security defaults. Question number 14. Your company has a Microsoft 365 tenant The company has a call center that contains 300 users. In the call center, the users share desktop computers and might use a different computer every day. The call center computers are not configured for biometric identification. The users are prohibited from having a mobile phone in the call center. You need to require multi-factor authentication for the call center users when they access Microsoft 365 service. What should you include in the solution? So we have four answers. Option: a named network location, the Microsoft Authenticator app, Windows Hello for business authentication, FIDO2 tokens. The correct answer is FIDO2 tokens. So why FIDO2 tokens are the right solution? Because these are the physical USB NFC keys, do not require a phone, do not require biometrics, work on any computer, ideal for shared workstation. Users just plug in their key and authenticate it. So that's why we choose this option. Question number 15. You have an Active Directory forest that syncs to an Azure Active Directory tenant. You discover that when a user account is disabled in Active Directory, the disabled users can still authenticate to Azure AD for up to 30 minutes. You need to ensure that when a user account is disabled in Active Directory, the user account is immediately prevented from authenticating to the Azure AD. So solution: you configure password right back. Does this meet the goal? We have two options, yes or no. The answer is no, because the write back password write back allows password changes made in Azure AD to be written back to an on-premise Active Directory, used mainly for self-service password reset services. Password write back only synchronize password changes, not account status, so it does not immediately block Azure AD authentication. So we choose option no. Question number 16. You have an Active Directory forest that syncs to an Azure Active Directory tenant. You discover that when a user account is disabled in Active Directory, the disabled user still can authenticate to Azure AD for up to 30 minutes. You need to ensure that when user account is disabled in Active Directory, that user account is immediately prevented from authenticating to Azure AD. You configure fast through authentication. So does this solution meet the goal? Yes or no? Answer is yes. So pass-through authentication works based on the Azure AD does not authenticate users itself. So every sign-in is validated directly against an on-premise Active Directory, and the authentication happens in real time. So what happens when the user is disabled in AD? AD immediately rejects the authentication. Azure AD receives the failure. User is blocked instantly. So no waiting for directory sync from on-prem to Entra ID. So if we configure pass-through authentication, then the account will be blocked immediately when the account is disabled in on-prem Active Directory. Number 17. You have an Active Directory domain that syncs to an Azure Active Directory tenant. The on-premises network contains a VPN server that authenticates to the on-premise Active Directory domain. The VPN server does not support Azure multi-factor authentication, that is called MFA. You need to recommend a solution to provide Azure MFA for VPN connection. What should you include in the recommendation? There are four options we have: Azure AD application proxy, an Azure AD password protection proxy, network policy server, that is called NPS, a pass-through authentication proxy. The correct answer is network policy server. So here we have the explanation how Azure MFA works with on-prem VPNs. Microsoft provides the NPS extension for Azure MFA. How it works: VPN authenticates user credential via AD. NPS acts as a radius server. NPS extension triggers Azure MFA. User completes MFA. VPN access is granted. This is the standard Microsoft supported solution for this kind of VPN setup. Question number 18. You have an Azure Active Directory tenant named Contaso.com that contains an Azure AD enterprise application named App1. A contractor uses the credential of user1 at outlook.com. You need to ensure that you can provide the contractor with access to App1. The contractor must be able to authenticate as user1 at outlook.com. What should you do? There are four options we have. Run the new AD user commandlet, configure the external collaboration settings, add a WS Fed identity provider, create a guest user account in contesto.com. The correct answer is create a user account in contesto.com. So explanation. So based on the question, what is required? Contractor uses user1 at outlook.com. It's an external Microsoft account. Must authenticate using the same identity. Need access to app1 in our tenant. This is exactly what Azure AD B2B collaboration is for. So why creating a guest user is correct for this question. So when we create a guest user, the external identity, like if it's a Microsoft account, Outlook account, is trusted. The contractor sign in using the user1 at outlook.com. You can assign the guest to any app, groups, or roles if it's allowed. No password is created in your tenant. So that's why we choose this option, create a user account in contesto.com. This is a guest user account. Question number 19. You have a Microsoft 365 tenant. All users have mobile phones and laptops. The users frequently work from remote locations that do not have Wi-Fi access or mobile phone connectivity. While working from the remote location, the users connect their laptop to a wired network that has internet access. You plan to implement multi-factor authentication, that is called MFA. Which MFA authentication method can the users use from the remote location? So we have four options. A security code from the Microsoft Authenticator app, security question, voice, and SMS. The correct answer is a verification code from the Microsoft Authenticator app. So here we have the explanation why we choose this answer. Microsoft Authenticator app supports two different MFA methods. The first one, push notification, that will not be used here because we do not have internet. The second option is verification code. So we have it work offline, no Wi-Fi is needed, no mobile data, no roaming, no phone signal. So the app generates a time-based OTP every 30 to 60 seconds, exactly like a hardware token. This method works completely offline once the account is registered. Microsoft explicitly confirms this behavior in their documentation. Question number 20. You have an Azure Active Directory tenant named contesto.com. You implement entitled management to provide resource access to users at a company named Fabricom. Fabricom uses a domain named fabricom.com. Fabricom users must be removed automatically from the tenant when access is no longer required. You need to configure the following settings. Block external user from signing to this directory, no. Remove external user, yes. Number of days before removing external user from this directory, 90 days. What should you configure on the identity governance plate? So we have four options: access package, settings, terms of use, access reviews. So correct answer is settings. So in entity management has two levels actually. So settings and access package. Settings is a tenant wide, controls what happens to external users when they lose access, including whether guest users are blocked or removed, automatic removal timing, example the 90 days, and the access package define what resource users get, how long access lost, approval requirements. But access package do not control guest deletion timing. Question number 21. You have an Azure Active Directory tenant. You need to review the Azure AD sign-in logs to investigate sign-ins that occurred in the past. For how long does Azure AD store events in the sign-in logs? We have four options: 14 days, 30 days, 90 days, 365 days. The correct answer is 30 days. By default, Azure Active Directory, Microsoft Entra ID, sign-in logs are retained for 30 days. This applies to interactive sign-in logs, non-interactive sign-in logs, service principal sign-ins. Question number 22. You have an Microsoft 365 tenant. All users have computers that run Windows 10. Most computers are company owned and joined to Azure Active Directory. That is called Entra ID now. Some computers are user owned and are only registered in Azure AD. You need to prevent users who connect to Microsoft SharePoint Online on their user owned computer from downloading or syncing files. Other users must not be restricted. Which policy type you should create? We have four options. A Microsoft Cloud App Security Activity Policy that has Microsoft 365 governance action configured, and Azure AD Conditional Access Policy that has session controls configured, and Azure AD Conditional Access Policy that has client apps conditions configured, a Microsoft Cloud App Security App Discovery Policy that has governance actions configured. So the correct answer is an Azure AD Conditional Access Policy that has session controls configured. Here we have the explanation. So conditional access session controls allows you to allow browser access. So we can able to block file download, block OneDrive sync, and apply rules only to unmanaged device, specific apps like SharePoint or Teams something, specific users or groups. So this is the exact Microsoft feature for block download or unmanaged devices. Number 23. You have an Microsoft 365 tenant. All users must use the Microsoft Authenticator app for multi-factor authentication when accessing Microsoft 360 services. Some users report that they received an MFA prompt on their Microsoft Authenticator app without initiating a sign-in request. You need to block the users automatically when they report an MFA request that they did not initiate. Solution: from the Azure portal, you configure the account lockout settings for multi-factor authentication. Does this solution meet the goal? We have two options, yes or no. Answer is no. So explanation: why MFA account lockout does not meet the goal means it can only lock users after multiple failed MFA attempts or triggered by the repeated incorrect MFA responses. They do not detect or respond to users reporting suspicious MFA prompts, automatically block users based on the MFA fraud reports. So what actually meet the goal for our understanding? I have mentioned it. To automatically block users when they report unexpected MFA prompts, you must use Microsoft Authenticator report suspicious activity. Azure AD identity protection risk-based conditional access policy. These can mark the user as a high risk, automatically block sign-in or require password reset. Question number 24. You have an Azure Active Directory tenant named contoso.com that has Azure AD identity protection policies enforced. You create an Azure Sentinel instance and configure the Azure Active Directory connector. You need to ensure that Azure Sentinel can generate instance based on the risk alerts raised by Azure AD identity protection. What should you do first? We have four options. Add an Azure Sentinel data connector. Configure the notify settings in Azure AD identity protection. Create an Azure Sentinel playbook. Modify the diagnostics settings in Azure AD. The correct answer is add an Azure Sentinel data connector. Explanation we have here. Azure Sentinel can generate instance from Azure AD identity protection risk alerts, but those alerts must first be sent to Azure Monitor logs. So step that must happen first. You must configure Azure AD diagnostics settings to send the identity protection risk events to log analytics workspace used by Sentinel. Until this is done, Sentinel receives no identity protection data, no instance can be generated. Number 25. You have a Microsoft 365 tenant. All users must use the Microsoft Authenticator app for multi-factor authentication when accessing Microsoft 365 services. Some users report that they received an MFA prompt on their Microsoft Authenticator app without initiating a sign-in request. You need to block the users automatically when they report an MFA request that they did not initiate. Solution: from the Azure portal, you configure the fraud alert settings for multi-factor authentication. Does this solution meet the goal? Yes or no? Yes. Because why fraud alert settings meet the goal means are designed exactly for this scenario. When enabled, users can select report suspicious activity in Microsoft Authenticator app. Azure AD marks that account as a fraudulent, blocks the user automatically, require admin intervention to unblock. So this directly satisfies the requirement. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel Skills Up with Satish if you like this video and the content of the video. And also like and share it with your friends. And if you have any questions or need clarification, please put a comment so I will respond to you one to one. Thank you very much.